Welcome to another edition of the Inspired Stories podcast, where leaders share their experiences so we can learn from their successes and be inspired by how they've overcome adversity. My name is Anthony Codispoti, and today's guest is Luke Barrett, managing partner and owner of Citywide Facility Solutions. Founded in 1961, Citywide helps businesses handle janitorial services, building maintenance, and more, offering a single point of contact for easier communication. Luke plays a key role in driving the company's growth through strategic team building and compliance management, ensuring every project meets legal standards. He holds a Master's of Arts in Teaching, along with dual Bachelor of Science degrees in Psychology and Physical Education. Under Luke's guidance, the company continues to expand, serving clients across various industries and taking on new challenges in facility management. Now, before we get into all that good stuff, today's episode is brought to you by my company, Add Back Benefits Agency, where we offer very specific and unique employee benefits that are both great for your team and fiscally optimized for your bottom line. Imagine being able to give your employees free access to doctors, therapists, and prescription medications. And here's the fun part. The program actually puts more money in your employees' pockets and the company's too. One recent client was able to increase net profits by $900 per employee per year. Results vary for each company, and some organizations may not be eligible. To find out if your company qualifies, contact us today at addbackbenefits.com. All right, back to our guest today, managing partner, owner of Citywide Facility Solutions, Luke Barrett. Thanks for making the time to share your story today.
Happy to be here, Anthony.
And I want to clarify, you own one of the franchises. Which location is it?
We are in Rogers, Arkansas, so we would be considered the Northwest Arkansas market.
Okay. Now, before we get into Citywide Facility Solutions, how that opportunity came about, what it is you guys do there, you've got a little bit of an interesting path to get here. I understand you were a college professor and a baseball coach. I don't understand how you get from here to there, but kind of walk us through it.
Well, I played college baseball and I didn't want to give up the sport. And I thought, what a better way to use my teaching degree to teach athletes. I wanted to be a sports psychologist, but they told me that would take another 4 or 5 years of school. And I was already starting to make a family, and that wasn't going to work for me or my wife. So I got into the Kankakee Community College assistant baseball coach, head of recruiting. And lo and behold, that's probably what started my sales career, because I always jokingly say that was the hardest sales job that I've ever had, was telling a mother to let their 18-year-old son become a man with me helping mentor him into that. So yeah, I spent about 7 or 8 years doing that. And then an opportunity presented itself.
So parents didn't want their kids to go to college?
No, it was getting them to leave their hometown and travel maybe from a smaller town in Indiana to an hour south of Chicago, and really trusting in us to turn their boy into a man, essentially.
Got it. Okay, yeah. Please continue.
Yeah. And so then an opportunity presented itself, a sales opportunity in Oklahoma City of doing roofing and construction work, became the general manager of NRG Roofing. And then a couple of years with no hailstorms, I realized I didn't want to rely on Mother Nature to pay my bills.
So in that industry, that's sort of the trigger. Like if you've got bad weather, business is good. But if weather is calm and even in that area, the sales dry up.
Absolutely. And unless you've been in the market for 5 to 10 years, nobody really knows your name because there's just so many roofers. So yes, you just get lost in the mix and it's really hard to build your brand. My brother-in-law has done a great job doing it. He still does it. It just really wasn't for me. And I wanted to help people a little bit more than, being the guy that knocks on your door the 30th time of the day to see if I can help you put on a roof.
Okay. All right. And so what took place after that? Where did you go next?
That's where I met my mentor, Leah Monagold. And that's really how I got involved with Citywide. She worked at Enterprise as an area manager. And I remember parking my truck about 3 blocks down the road, so she didn't see that I had a roofing logo on my truck. Mm-hmm. And I remember getting the call for the interview, getting excited and telling my wife, and she goes, "You're going to go rent cars?" for a living? And I go, hey, they're going to give me the tools to be my own boss. So I jumped at the opportunity with Enterprise, climbed up the ranks, and then worked there for about 10 years. And
Okay.
then, yeah, COVID kind of happened, microchip shortages, and
So things were going well up
mhm.
until COVID. You were on a career track. Things were going, you enjoyed the job. You had a good mentor, and then COVID hit and nobody's renting cars.
Well, they were renting cars, but it was really tough for me. I was with the fleet management division, and it was tough for me to work from home, to be
Hmm.
quite frank. I have to have human interaction. That's another reason why I chose Citywide is because no matter what happens, we have to stay open because we're an essential business. And throughout the entire time of COVID, there wasn't a Citywide branch that wasn't out there helping people stay safe and healthy throughout that process.
So how did you find Citywide, or how did they find you?
Well, my mentor reached out to me. She,
She had
she's,
moved on to Citywide by that point. She'd
yep.
left. Okay.
She with COVID, there were layoffs that happened, and they picked the top people, and she was there for over 20 years and one of the top people. And yeah, so she ran into the opportunity at Citywide after leaving Enterprise. And so the microchip shortages happened. Vehicles weren't being able to be delivered. It was just a tough thing working from home. And so I started thinking about expanding my horizons. And so I reached out to her because she's always been a mentor resource. Um, and then I went to a bigger company for insurance benefits. So it's funny that you say that you own that type of company, but I made that choice. And after about 90 days, I realized the culture wasn't for me. That I wanted to find a smaller company that I can make a quicker, bigger impact the lives. And then I reached out to her and I told her, you told me I was going to make a mistake, not coming to work for you. Well, I'm being vulnerable here, and I'm telling you, I made a mistake, and I want to come work for you.
And that door was still open. And
Yep.
so what did you start doing right out of the gate?
So I was I was performing as the director of sales. Had a team of about 6 to 8 sales people underneath me, all the way from sales associates to sales executives, and really just driving revenue on the janitorial sales side of things.
Okay, so I want to hear more about that role, but paint us a picture of the kinds of services that Citywide Facility Solutions provides.
So it's pretty unique. We specialize in janitorial services. That's our monarch um, service that we have. But then we have a myriad of other services, 20 plus services from the parking lot to the roof. You can imagine in facility, commercial buildings, 10,000 square feet or above, there can be a lot of things that go wrong and they have to focus on their jobs. So they rely on Citywide to fix those problems that do come up when they arise.
What kind of problems? I mean, you guys are cleaning, right? You're taking out the
Yeah.
trash, you're doing that, but what are you doing in a parking lot? What are you doing on a roof?
Yeah, so anytime there's an issue that takes place, or our solutions manager is walking the property, they might see something that could prevent a future problem. Let's say your parking lot doesn't have good striping, and it keeps causing accidents and such. It can become a liability to the company. So we come and give them a quote to be able to repave, restripe the parking lots for them. Other times, our cleaners have been cleaning and a water heater breaks. And it's on the weekend and nobody's at the job but us. And we're able to do the water remediation for them so
Oh,
they can be
wow.
opened up for Monday.
Wow.
So you can imagine from fixing a light bulb to a leaky roof to clogged gutters. I mean, there's a lot of things that get asked by our facility solutions managers to find solutions for.
And I can see that. I'm in an office building myself here, and I don't, our cleaning people do a decent job, but I don't think they're sort of proactively looking for those sorts of things, which would certainly be helpful because right now it's the tenants that, report any issues that occur.
Hmm.
And if something happens over the weekend, nobody's going to notice for a few days. So I could see how that'd be useful. So tell me more about how you guys approach things from the sales side. You're managing a team of 6 folks. What is it you're doing? Is it cold calling? Are you knocking on doors? Are you going to Chamber of Commerce events?
Yeah, so I do. It's funny you say that. I've been at, I think, every chamber of commerce event that Northwest Arkansas can have, just because I think brand recognition is very, very important. So yes, I'm heavily involved in the chambers of commerces. Other ways we do it here in Northwest Arkansas, we are heavily in the field. Um, our sales executive knocks over 100 doors a month. We realize it's a numbers game. You've got to play the numbers on the sales side of things. We've also got a team of people that call, our BDS team that calls, where Jake correlates with them, saying where he stopped by, the good conversations he's had, and then they can go back and book a meeting for Jake to go meet with that person, measure the building, and give a proposal for janitorial services. It all
Okay.
starts with janitorial services typically, just because that's really where our niche is the janitorial side. But it's just an added benefit to be able to do anything from the roof to the curb for our clients, for them.
And so those are sort of the value adds that would come later, sort of like I'd equate it to like McDonald's. Do you want fries with that kind of a thing? Like you guys are
Yeah.
cleaning the place and you're like, hey, I noticed this issue with the roof. Would you like a quote for that? Oh,
Yep.
sure. That'd be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It makes it easy for them to, plan as well for the next fiscal year. If you're taking a proactive approach, reactive approaches always cost you more money to the bottom line. And so if we've got somebody always doing inspections once a week in their building, and while they're doing the inspection, they notice something that could prevent a larger issue down the road, we just want to be a partner to our clients and let them know, hey, we noticed this. It's up to you how you want to proceed with it. I always kind of jokingly say it's a la carte, all of our other services. We like to thrive with and earn your trust through janitorial to be able to do those other services.
And so does that mean that you're keeping roofers on staff, plumbers, HVAC? Is that how that works?
Yes, like I said, always be connecting. So if I'm driving down the street and there's a smaller mom and pop looking HVAC company, middle tiered HVAC company, plumbers, electricians, you name it, I'm stopping at the gas pump and I'm saying, hey man, do you have a business card? I'd love to get to know what you guys do, what your niche is, what you're trying to look for, and see if maybe we can help each other out.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense because these smaller sort of mid-tier, they don't have the kind of overhead that the bigger companies would. So the service ends up being more cost effective for you to deliver to your end client.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, you mentioned that you briefly went to a larger company before joining Citywide because you wanted the good benefits. That wasn't the right fit for you. And I think the comment that you made was, I wanted to go somewhere where I could have a bigger impact sooner. Say
Mhm.
more about that. What kind of impact are you talking about?
So looking at working for bigger companies and now working for a smaller company, it seems that you're not just a number. You're having conversations with employees. You're getting to know them on a whole nother level, because you know that if something isn't working, it's going to impact their lives negatively, a whole lot more than if you're working with 50,000 people around the country. It's just kind of a big machine that just keeps churning and burning, whether you're there or not. I think on a smaller company level, people aren't as replaceable as they are in corporate America. I'm only as good as the people that I can hire, essentially. And I think making that impact, treating people right, treating them with respect, following the values that I like, honesty and integrity, and always doing the right thing, and being a problem solver. Those are the three things that I look for, and people that hate to lose. I would rather have somebody that hates to lose or loves to win on my team, because
Oh, say more about that. That's an interesting distinction.
yeah, so that's probably the last question I ask anybody in an interview is, do you love to win or do you hate to lose? And if they say they love to win, they're going to have to overcome some objections with me, because everybody can remember the great times they won. But if somebody allows the losses to be learning lessons and then make them push harder to never have to have that learning lesson again, I want those resilient type of people on my sales team and just on my operations team as well.
So you find that hate of losing is a better driver than the love of winning.
Yeah, people get comfortable when they are always winning. You have to learn to be comfortable in the uncomfortable, as a former boss once told me. And if you're always winning, you're probably not putting yourself outside of your comfort zone very often.
Love it. And then I understand pretty recently a special opportunity became available to you.
Yes. So I was, as the director of sales, I noticed on our internal recruiting that there was an opportunity to become a managing partner and owner of the Citywide Facility Solutions here in Northwest Arkansas. And so I have moved here. I've been here for about a month and a half, and I've taken over this franchise and looking to grow it just the same way we grew the Oklahoma City market.
Okay. And how's it going so far?
There's a lot. It's a lot different than just being a director of sales when you're having to deal with the front of the house, the back of the house, and everything in between. A lot more conversations with employees than I've ever had on the operations side. Our model is once we sell it, we want to get it into the right-minded people. Those are operation-minded people. Salespeople tend to be good hunters. They don't tend to be good gardeners. And so dealing with the operation side, seeing what affects them based on how the front end of sales sells a janitorial contract can affect their lives very, very positively or very, very negatively if expectations aren't set with the client up front.
So do you have somebody separate that's doing the hunting, that's doing the sales, and then somebody separate that does the gardening, sort of the account maintenance and maintaining that relationship?
Absolutely. We have a sales executive named Jake Zakovich. He goes out there. He is the hunter. He's already, I think, the goal was 100 doors knocked this month. I think he's probably well past 150 at this point. He's lived here ever since he graduated from University of Arkansas. And then we have a facility solutions manager who's on the operational side of things. That's Janine Solomon, as well as Mason Taylor. Mason's from Alma, Arkansas, which is down by Fort Smith. And then the unique thing with Janine is she's bilingual and was born and raised in El Salvador. And she's working to get everything finalized to become a U.S. citizen. And I jumped at the opportunity, told her she's way overqualified for the position based on her resume. But I think that we can help each other grow this thing into something really, really good.
And so paint a picture on who your typical client is.
So we could service really any industry. The main industries that I don't like to service is the retail side of things. But we do a lot of healthcare clinics, urgent cares. We do a lot of dealerships around the country, as well as here in Northwest Arkansas. So we look for buildings that are either getting clean 3 or more days a week or 10,000 square feet or above is really what I'm looking for in this area. That's our ideal client, somebody that needs services 3 or more times a week that has a building 10,000 square feet or above is really in our niche. And it can be any type of industry. We work with manufacturing and industrial industries. We've got a really, really broad spectrum of clients, and it's unique to each client. Healthcare is going to get cleaned completely different than a car dealership. So it's having to know those conversations up front on the sales side to be able to set operations up for success on the back end.
Why don't you like retail?
Well, typically they have employees cleaning while they're working throughout the day, as well as there's just the liability of having items and things around. I don't want to take on that liability of if something comes up missing, then pointing the fingers at anybody on my team. It's easier that way. A lot of times they're very budget driven, and so they look to cut their cost by having their employees doing the cleaning for them. So it's just not really a good fit for what we do.
What about restaurants or hotels? Are those a good fit for you?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Other services for hotels and restaurants, like cleaning their vent hoods and things like that, typically no. And a lot of times is because they stay open later. And if our crews are coming in at midnight, are they going to perform if they've been working 6 hours and then this is their last stop? A lot of grease, a lot of things that you have to really think about cleaning completely different, and it takes a lot longer. So a lot of restaurants decide to have their staff do it as well.
Gotcha. So
Yep.
you're coming in after normal business hours at most of your
Hmm.
client locations. Okay.
Yes.
That
Yep.
makes sense.
Yeah, unless they have some type of government security clearance where we have to be there while they're on site. But we also do offer day porter services. There's a lot of hospitals out there that use our day porter services to do their flips of their clients' rooms. When one leaves, that we go in, change the seats quickly, clean the room up before the next person comes in to see the doctor.
So you guys pride yourself on being a single point of contact for building maintenance. What kind of strategies have you implemented to streamline that communication and ensure that you've got really good responsiveness for your clients?
I think it's always about how you start a partnership with somebody. If they know that you're holding people accountable, you're holding yourself accountable to do the things that was said that was going to be done, you can earn that trust very quickly. Once you earn that trust of somebody, then they start just naturally asking you for help. So it's all about connecting early on, making sure that we follow the processes and procedures that we have in place on the operational side, making sure that we are doing inspections once a week, going and talking to the client, asking for a rating 0 out of 10. How are we doing? We want to make sure that there's always a pulse on our partnerships with our clients. We don't want to be surprised that they're not happy. We would rather know what the issues are and try to solve them in a proactive manner. So yeah, there's a lot of ways we can really build and grow in that way, but it really comes down to once we start with janitorial, and then we're offering 20 other services that can take a lot of time off of their plate. It just becomes a perfect partnership for busy, busy people.
Mm. And then how do you go about what's your approach for finding the folks that are doing sort of that frontline cleaning work?
So I do a lot of work with Hispanic chambers of commerces in the past. I'm going to be having a booth at an event, stopping by churches. There's a couple of Hispanic churches that I've stopped by, talked with the pastors and let them know what I'm trying to do, of creating kind of a ripple effect of helping other people grow their small business into a medium, maybe large size business. My goal is one day they don't need Citywide and they can go and do it on their own. We've helped build that business up so well for them
Mm.
that they know what to do on their own. They know how to do the sales side. They know how to do the management side. But early on, we're really impacting a lot of lives because any account we bring on, we're hiring in a small to medium sized company to come in and do that cleaning, which is going to impact their families' lives and then impact all the lives of the employees that work at the company, keep them healthy and safe.
It's pretty early on with your new location there in
Mm-hmm.
Arkansas, but as you think sort of historically all the time that you've been with the company, what's been the biggest growth lever for you guys to pull? What's the most successful way for you to find clients? You like the ads work at all? Is it really just smile and dial and knocking on doors?
What equity? I'm a firm believer. Sales is you have to be connecting, and if you're not putting yourself out there to meet new people, putting yourself out there and being vulnerable with people, you're not going to connect with people. So it's a numbers game. I'm heavily involved in tracking numbers of our salespeople, making sure that they're successful. They hate to lose, right? So I want to make sure that I can avoid the losses by bringing on wins, but at the same time, realizing that in sales, you're going to get a lot of no's. So you have to be very, very resilient of a person. You can't take things very personally, and you have to be able to kind of flush it and move on, and just not really wear it as they're not saying no to me. They're just saying no to the idea of meeting with me right now. So I think the
What's
biggest lever is the phone and the sidewalks, knocking on the doors.
Do people even answer their phone anymore?
I don't think so, but they'll answer a text or they'll at least read it, So that's one thing. Whenever I go in, I ask for people's cell phone numbers. I have Jake ask for the cell phone numbers because at that
And they'll
point they
give it
give you.
out?
Yeah, a lot of times if you ask, they're yeah, sure, here. You try to get a hold of me. I'm just busy right now. but send me a message and we'll get a time to meet and see if you guys can possibly help us out. We try to take more of an approach of, I don't know if I can help you, but if you give me 30 minutes to an hour to really fact find what you guys currently do and where your pain is, I could probably provide a solution to take that pain away.
And so in most situations, are you going in and they already have a provider and maybe the cost is too high or they're not happy with the service? Or are you going into a lot of places that have just been doing it themselves and have never hired or considered an outside source?
A lot of people outsource, but they have a taste in their mouth of everybody starts off really good. And then as the cleaning goes on, they gradually goes down. And then you have to take a corrective measure to make that service go back up. And it becomes a roller coaster for them. Nobody wants to have to focus on janitorial. I always say, if they're focused on janitorial, we're not doing our jobs right. Yeah. So we look to take that off their plate and just really help them give time back in their day to be able to focus on really what their job is.
And so what are you guys doing differently from the competition so that you don't have that sort of, hey, it started out great and then things kind of nosedive in terms of quality?
Well, a lot of it's the people. We hire certain people for the operations side that strive to help people. We also want to make sure that, when we are talking with people, that we're asking them, how are things going? If you're below an 8, there's something going on. We have to fix the problem. Is it changing a crew out, bringing in a new crew? What's the systemic problem that is frustrating you the most? And then we got to provide the solution quickly and efficiently, and then hold everyone accountable to performing. We also use technology. We have a complaint policy where we enter it into our Dynamics 365. And then by 10 a.m. the next morning, we have to follow up with the client to make sure that that garbage can that was missed wasn't missed the next clean. And then it reminds us 7 days, 30 days, 60 days after that complaint was in the system and resolved that, hey, follow up on this and make sure that we aren't continuing to make that mistake. I think that's really the biggest thing is, hey, remember last month we had this issue with the garbage cans. How's that been going? And then that tells the client that your attention to detail is good and that you're really, really, really invested in making their facility a better place your employees can come work.
This is an important point I'd like to dive into a little bit more because in business, you're providing a service, you always want it to be perfect. The reality is we're human beings, mistakes happen. I think the really important thing is when those mistakes happen, how do you respond? How do you react? What do you do to course correct? And so using some smaller examples, like somebody forgot to empty a trash can, can you maybe think of a bigger example where, man, this was something pretty big that went wrong and you had to step in and course correct and sort of massage that relationship to get their trust back?
I think any time that you're dealing with people and it's a small family operation that you're dealing with, I've heard of cleaners bringing children in to a facility. That's a big no-no. We don't allow that. We tell people up front to do that, but sometimes people have things going on in life and they just have to do it or something. And we just tell them, communicate with us. We'll try to find a different solution for that night if you can't. But ultimately, if the client looks at their cameras and there's a child sitting in there, that's a liability concern for them as well. So that's not a fun conversation to have with somebody. So we try to take the proactive approach when we're bringing on our ICs, that we're telling them, hey, here's the things that we expect you not to do and that can never happen, or we're going to have to remove you from the facility.
So then it becomes a hard conversation, not only with the client, but with your team members as well.
Correct. And I think that's the benefit of the way we do our contracting of our crews, is that we're able to sit on the same side of the table as our clients, and they're not having to have that uncomfortable conversation with the crew member that brought their kid in. I'm having that conversation with them. So it just only enhances the partnership with our clients, in my opinion, because we're sitting on the same side of the table, realizing, hey, I'm on the same boat as you. This isn't acceptable, and I'm going to get it fixed for you. And then always closing the loop, making sure that I follow up with the client, letting them know that the problem is fixed and it won't happen again.
Yeah, and that kind of highlights another reason why it's probably so advantageous for a group to hire you guys rather than try to maintain their own part-time crew that comes in the evening when nobody's there and having to manage them and oversee them? And are they really doing what they're supposed to be doing? That you guys
Yeah.
take all that off their plate.
A lot of people do in-house, Anthony. It's a cost-effective way of doing it. If an employee needs some extra money, it's a good way to supplement extra money for that employee. But at the end of the day, if you're consistently in the markets today, hiring people is one of the hardest things to do right now, is finding good employees. So what's that cost of hiring and firing those employees is a big conversation that I have with people that are doing the in-house approach.
Luke, talk to me about any legal or regulatory standards that you guys need to be in tune with.
So OSHA, bloodborne pathogen training in all of our medical facilities. If we are doing terminal cleans, there is a lot to terminal cleans in a medical facility. We have to do trainings on that. Making sure that we have our ICs having the right insurance set in place to protect themselves. Making sure that they have an LLC set up to protect themselves as well. We help people start their own LLCs if they don't have it when they first sign on with us as a cleaning crew. The list goes on and on, but I would say, those OSHA standards, being able to NSA certified, all of those things that you can provide proof to a client will put trust in that you guys are a professional and sometimes a pretty unprofessional industry.
Where does the future of Citywide Facility Solutions take you? What do you think is on the horizon?
Well, hopefully a lot of growth. That's I've kind of got a growth mindset. That's what I pride myself in, is growing the business through sales, but then nurturing the relationships we have and maintaining those relationships long term is only going to drive our bottom line higher and higher. My goal is always, every person's goal that starts a franchise is be at $10 million within the first 10 years. I was able to watch our team in Oklahoma City do that in about 6 or 7 years. So now I've seen it work. I've seen it happen. I've seen the way it's supposed to happen. And that's my goal, is to drive this thing and become one of the top franchises in the entire country.
Wow. And you're talking about your sales process a bit earlier, and kind of needing to have that thick skin and hating to lose and bouncing
Yeah.
back and keep going. What is sort of a target hit rate? All right, if I make 100 calls, how many appointments should I be setting? And out of those appointments, what percentage of those would I ultimately expect to close?
Yeah. So I look at it more of how many building surveys are you booking a month, and how many proposals are you delivering after those building surveys every month. If somebody can make 50 calls and book 10 meetings because they're really, really good on the phone, but never deliver a proposal, well, we're never going to close business. So it's really weighing that, is all right, are you able to book the meeting? And then are you able to go there, have a really good meeting, find pain to be able to fix people's problems, and then deliver the solution to them efficiently, where they're going to have trust, and Citywide's going to be able to make their place a whole heck of a lot better. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into the sales side. It's more of a business to business approach. And so I really just try to help that process move along. Always having calendar defined next steps with people is huge in our industry, because like I said, if they're not focused on janitorial, they will completely forget about you and your salespeople and everything about it, right? Like, so we want to make sure that we're staying diligent. So if they're making 100 phone calls and I want them to be booking 12 meetings a month on their own, and then having a BDS team booking another 6 or 7, that equates to about 20 building surveys in a month. And then if you're delivering 20 building surveys and you're closing at 50%, well, you should have a pipeline where you're able to close $10,000 every month. Everybody wants to make 6 figures in sales, and the top performers in the Citywide system, some of them are making $250,000 because they stay diligent to their pipeline, growing their pipeline, and they're closing $10,000 to $20,000 every month, like clockwork. So getting my team to be able to learn the process early on, the right way to do things, the right questions to ask, which aren't closed-ended, they're open-ended questions. Getting them to really learn to dig deeper into the people's problems and then finding a good solution for that and being able to clearly explain, here's how we're going to fix it for you for the long term. So the goal is to get to that $10,000 a month mark to earn the platinum status or diamond level status sales executive. You have to sell $126,000 in the fiscal year. So I put that as a goal for every one of my salespeople.
And so an average deal is about $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
Typical. Okay.
We want to be around, I mean, our sweet spot, I say, is between $2,500 and $5,000.
Oh, okay.
Especially when you're early on. Smaller accounts take up just as much time of a partnership as accounts that are that medium size that we really thrive in, that are 5-day-a-week accounts, that were there like clockwork. When something happens, there's not 2 or 3 days in between cleans that the client is sitting there looking at that on the floor that they don't want to pick up or something like that. It's just more beneficial that way to be able to be always in front of our clients.
Let's take a little bit of a detour, Luke. I'd like to hear about a serious challenge that you've overcome, whether it's something personal or professional. Curious how you got through it and what you learned.
I'd say taking a leap of faith, going away from the coaching in baseball, what I always knew, and moving to Oklahoma City was a huge, huge challenge for me because it put me out of my comfort zone. When you're born and raised in a town and your dad owned a company and everybody knows the last name, I say big fish, little pond, right? And then I go down to Oklahoma City, don't know anybody, and I've got a network and make all new friends, everything like that. That was a big leap of faith for me and my family. My daughters were really young. I had a 3-year-old and a 2-month-old. And then while I was working, I would say one of the hardest things I've ever had to overcome was when my mother had her stroke a couple of days after Thanksgiving a few years ago. I'm a self-proclaimed mama's boy, and she's still here with us. Thankfully, I got to have dinner with her last night. But going through that, I'll never forget the drive from Oklahoma City to Springfield, Missouri to see my mom during COVID, and I can't go see her.
Wow.
It was tough.
That's brutal.
It's brutal. Only one visitor a day. Sitting in the house with my sister and my dad, wondering if our mom's even going to make it. We didn't know. And that sent me kind of in a spiral of, I got to a pretty dark place where I'm working from home all day, every day.
This is when you were at the bigger company that you mentioned before. Okay.
Yeah. And I'll never forget my wife. And I'm not going to get emotional, but she sat down with me and she's like, "You're not happy." And I'm like, what do you mean I'm not happy? I'm making 6 figures. We've got great insurance. You guys are providing. She's like, "You are not happy." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, I need this job. Like, I've got to be able to provide for you." And she goes, "If you were to go away tomorrow, let's say you got in a car accident and passed away, would you be replaced in a week at that company?" And I had to do some deep searching, right? Like, that's a tough question to answer. And the answer was, yeah, I'd probably be replaced quickly. So that's when I was like, all right, I'm not happy. I need to do something different, pivot. I'm getting frustrated with microchip shortages and cars not being delivered. And it just put me in kind of a depressed state where I didn't see a light at the end of the tunnel. But having a good wife, having a good support system in my family, I've gotten back stronger. I would have never, if that didn't happen, I'd probably never leave Enterprise and go to the other company and then find my way back to my mentor, Leah. So everything happens for a reason. I'm a firm believer in that. And if you're always trying to do the right thing by people, the right thing is going to be done by you eventually. You just got to keep on pushing.
It's so interesting. As human beings, when we're able to look in the rearview mirror, it's so much easier to connect the dots and to have gratitude for some of those really, really hard times, dark places that we find ourselves in. But as we're going through that dark tunnel in the moment, it just feels like punishment. And it's like, what's the lesson here? What am I supposed to be doing? I feel lost. I'm banging my head against the wall. And so it's great to hear your story, Luke, because it's a, a wonderful example of, I mean, it was sort of like a series of things that were going wrong.
Yep.
And it had to have been really hard in the moment to get through it. Thankfully, you had, such a great support system with your wife there.
Yeah. I mean, anytime I look back at low points in life, having to give up baseball, you feel like nothing's ever going to happen to make you leap up and forward. If I've learned that if you kind of can stay still in the chaos and shut things down in your brain and compartmentalize and have a daily plan, execute the plan, you're going to get out of that dark hole. And that's when the rebound is way higher. That's when the best things that ever happen in your life is when you come out of one of the lowest points of your life. I'm a firm believer in that. The bounce back is way better than the fall.
That's interesting. And I've talked with a number of athletes, and I think the same holds true for people who have owned a business and then they're no longer an athlete or they no longer own that business. And it's not just a loss of what do I do with myself? It's a loss of identity. It
Yep.
feels like a part of you has died and you don't know there's this void and you don't know how to fill that void. And
Yep.
it sounds like looking back, I don't know if you were sort of aware of the strategy that you were using in the moment, but say more about that, how kind of had that plan, that system to get you out.
Yeah, it's really just what three things am I going to be able to do every day to make myself better? What goals do I have for the day? And how am I gonna accomplish the goals? And at the end of the day, if you don't accomplish the goals, what happened? What's the reason for it? I think that was a big turning point for the team in Oklahoma City is when they started really focusing on what is my game plan. Because when you're in that dark tunnel, it's hard to really focus on what you need to do. You're focused so much on the negative side of things that you're not even looking for the small wins that lead to the bigger wins. So
Mm.
I would tell people that write down three things that you want to accomplish every day. And at the end of the day, look at that list and be vulnerable with yourself, hold yourself accountable. Did you make the calls that you were supposed to make? If not, what happened? And how can I avoid doing that in the future? Being that consistent approach, I think will avoid those big pitfalls in life. And being a good communicator. When things aren't going right, I tell my team, I want you to be able to know that my door is always open and you can talk to me and be vulnerable, and I'm not going to judge you. If anything, I've probably been through some stuff in my life that I can give you some advice to help you get out of that sooner rather than later.
Yeah, it's so great to have mentors, to have bosses like that, to have peers that you can go to in those kinds of times to lean on. Because you're right, like, and I don't know if you're involved in any peer groups as well, but I found that to be incredibly helpful. You can sit in a room and folks are like, "Oh, yeah, I've gone through that before," and here's the service provider I use to help me, or here's the strategy that I found useful, and you're like, "Oh man, thank you. That's such a great shortcut."
Yeah. Yeah. It's incredible when you are vulnerable and put yourself out there. Um, the effects that can have on yourself, but then the people around you, you realize that they've been through the same thing and they were able to get out of it. You can talk through that. A lot of people, I think forever, we've mental health is something that we've just swept under the rug. And me with my psychology degree, I don't agree with that whatsoever. If you're having issues and obstacles in life, you've got to have somebody that you can go talk to about that. Leah was that for me for many, many, many years. She still is to the day. She's a mentor to me, as well as my wife and my parents. You have to have a resource of somebody to reach out to when things aren't going well, whether that's a best friend, an uncle. It doesn't matter. Don't get depressed and sit in that dark hole and think that you're never going to get out of it. Somebody will help you get out of that hole. So that's always been my message to people and my employees is if you're having issues, I want to know about what's affected you as a person before as an employee. I think that's when you really create a culture of everybody pulling from the same side of the rope.
I think that's an important message because so many times when people find themselves in a dark place, the natural human tendency is just to sort of turtle up, to withdraw
Shut down.
inside. Yeah, shut down. And it is the least helpful thing. It's going to
Yep.
put you further into that dark tunnel. The best thing for you in those moments, in my experience, and in talking with lots of people, be curious to hear your take on this, Luke, especially with your psychology background, is to reach out to someone that you trust and have that human connection and be able to share that experience and talk about it and process it.
Yep.
You're nodding your head. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes in those situations, you don't even know who you are. Lean on somebody that knows who you are to the core, and they'll remind you, that, hey, everything's going to be okay. Everything is happening for a reason, but what are we doing to fix it? Also having people that you talk to that won't let you have the woe is me attitude of, oh, nothing's ever going to work out. Sometimes somebody in your life's got to have that tough conversation of quit feeling sorry for yourself. And let's get moving.
Tough love.
Yeah. And you have to know the person, right? And if you've got a best friend, a sister, brother, whoever it may be, they're going to know when to give you the tough love and when not to. But so many times we're so prideful that we'll never talk to anybody about it. We'll just keep on battling the demons in our head behind closed doors, and it just goes further and further down a rabbit hole of nothing good.
Yeah. Luke, what's your superpower?
Oh, man, I would say connection, like being able to connect with people. It drives my wife nuts. I can be in a room of strangers, and by the end of it, I probably got 2 or 3 people's cell phone numbers, and we're probably gonna connect in a week or two and do something, to see if it's just always be connecting, man. Like I thrive to, I try to make everybody happy in my life. I think I think a flaw of mine is I worry too much about that, where I put myself in positions of vulnerability or maybe exposure to getting hurt or something like that, because I always trust people right when I meet them. I'm very people oriented. So yeah, work in a room is something that I enjoy doing thoroughly, and it can drive other people that are introverts nuts. Like, how do you become best friends with complete strangers? So never bring me on a cruise. I've never been on one, because all I'd probably do is talk.
How about resources that you'd recommend to our audience? A book, a course, a podcast, something that's been useful for you?
Something that's changed my life personally, professionally, is the book by Jocko. It is called Extreme Ownership. And it is something that it talks about when things go wrong, you have to look inward before going outward. I think that's made me a better husband, a better boss, and just an overall better person to deal with day in and day out, because it allows you to really be more consistent with your communication. If you look internally and put yourself in another person's shoes when things are going wrong, you're not going to point the finger and throw people under the bus. You're going to treat people with respect and do the right thing every single time. And taking ownership and accountability when things don't go wrong, being able to say, yes, I made the mistake. I'm going to fall on the sword right now. And sometimes that just bleeds into your team. When things go wrong, they're not going to blame the boss. They're going to look inward, and they're going to say, well, maybe I didn't make enough calls that day, or maybe I should have followed up on that proposal, that one last call, before just saying, oh, well, they just won't return my emails or my calls. Maybe I do need to go walk over there and knock on their door and say, how's life, man? Are you busy? Is that why you're not reaching back out to me? I think that was a big game changer. We did the practice of every Monday morning, a sales executive or one person on the sales team would go over 2 chapters of it and discuss something in their life that they can correlate on those 2 chapters to. And it was really, really cool to see the buy-in from the team. I thought it was going to be a corny thing to do that they wouldn't gravitate toward, but they bought in, and it was an amazing thing to see.
Give us another nugget from that book. You used the phrase, it changed my life. So I want to hear a little bit more about this.
Yeah, right after everything went down, it was the second time when I left Enterprise and went to the other company. I read that book a second time, and it allowed me to bounce back a whole lot faster. Mm-hmm. It allowed me to not be prideful and not call Leah and say, I made a mistake. I took ownership of the decision, and what am I going to do to change it? I think that's the biggest thing, is finding the solution and then changing it and then making it a habit at that point. That way it's a consistent habit, so you're not making the same mistake over and over and over again.
You have kids?
I have two daughters.
How old are they?
15 and 13.
Have you found a way, have you even tried to sort of teach some of those same lessons from that book to your kids?
100%. When
What does
grades
that
aren't
look like?
well, when grades aren't well, and I'm asking them what's going on, and they immediately start pointing the finger at the teacher, I said, we're not going to do that. What have you done to get the grades that you've gotten? And then lo and behold, we'll open up the thing, and she's forgot to turn in a couple of things to the teachers where she's got low grades. She turns them in, the grade goes up, and I'm saying, see, if you don't sit there and blame the teacher and you look inward and say, what do I need to do to get that grade lifted? Then it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think the big thing too is it's very easy to make excuses. And when you take extreme ownership, there is no excuse. You can't make excuses for yourself if you look inward first. Naturally, you just won't do it.
How does that messaging received by your daughters?
Oh, he's doing it again. No, I think, my 15-year-old Angelina, she's pretty close to a straight A student. I never was. I didn't apply myself in high school the way she does. So hopefully, just seeing me being consistent in my approach at work, seeing me consistently being able to provide for the family has brought that consistency in her life. I've been married to my wife for 18 years. And so, being able to be a better husband to her shows her, and sorry, my headphone just went off. Give me 1 second.
That's all right. I can hear you again.
All right. Yeah. So just being able to show her by example of what you should be treated like by somebody in the future, I think is huge for kids. There's always that nature versus nurture conversation. I think that's a 50-50 road. Genetics plays a part, but if you love on your family and you rely on them and they rely on you, they're going to be good stewards of society.
What habits do you have to get you started in the day?
I brush my teeth. No, I just
That's a good start for everybody, I think.
yeah. No, I try to practice what I preach. Of what's my daily plan. What am I going to do to grow the business? What am I going to do to set my sales executive up for success? It's usually by holding him accountable to what his goals are, following up with him at the end of the day, asking how it went. And just riding along is one of the hardest things for somebody to do when you're in a leadership position, but it can make the biggest impact to your employees. So slowing down when you're busy is saying, what needs to get done today before I leave the door? If you have a plan and you try to execute the plan and something doesn't work, you can fix it and try it again the next day. So I think that's the biggest thing that I do is I think about, all right, what 3 things am I going to accomplish today? And if I get those done, try to add 2, 3 more things to the list. Yeah, I'd say that's probably the biggest thing that I do mentally every morning is like, what do I need to do to get better? 1% better every day.
I've just got one more question for you, Luke, but before I ask it, I want to do 2 things. I want to invite all listeners right now, pause just for a second and go to your podcast app. Go ahead and hit the follow or subscribe button. Leave us a comment or review. All of this stuff really helps other people find the show. And it ensures that you continue to get more great content like this in your feed. Luke, I also want to let people know the best way to get in touch with you. They're in Northwest Arkansas. Maybe they just like something about your story.
LinkedIn, always be connecting. I got a decent sized presence on LinkedIn, but you can find me, Luke Barrett. Just look up Citywide Facility Solutions, Northwest Arkansas. That's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. Is LinkedIn. Always be connecting is my motto, so I would be kind of hypocritical if I didn't utilize that.
And we'll make sure we include links to your LinkedIn profile there in the show notes. Last question for you. You and I reconnect a year from now, Luke, and you are celebrating something big. What's that thing you're celebrating 1 year from today?
Platinum Club.
What is that?
That is being one of the top 10 franchises in the entire nation.
I mean, that's aggressive. In 12 months from now, you just took over a few months back.
Yeah. Pressure makes diamonds, right, Anthony?
Yeah, so I think, we are only as good as the goals that we make. And if we make goals that we're always achieving, um, those aren't goals, in my opinion. You have to fall short of your goals every once in a while. And then
You want to really stretch yourself.
you want to put yourself out of your comfort zone, set high standards for yourself of accountability every single day, and strive to hit those goals. And on the days you don't feel like it, be the person that is resilient enough to get that head trash out of the way and attack every day, get 1% better.
Luke Barrett from Citywide Facility Solutions, I want to be the first to thank you for sharing both your time and your story with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Anthony. It's been a pleasure.
Folks, that's a wrap on another episode of the Inspired Stories podcast. Thanks for learning with us today.